Morning, David.
Hey Austin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. Need to clear this stuff. Oops.
Did you finally get over all your cold and flu and everything else?
Uh, for the most part, I still have quite a bit of congestion still trying to come out. I took a 12-hour Mucinex last night, and now it's all pouring out of me, which is good because it's finally draining, but it makes me feel like crap. Um, the rest of my family's finally kicked it. I was lingering with the girls for longer than anything. Um, and my wife's still tired, but she's also nursing and dealing with a 7 month or 6 month old. So and two
Yep.
other kids. So she's just perpetually tired. Um,
Yeah,
how are
I
you
still
feeling?
got some of that congestion as well. Like I said, it's more my symptoms are more at the aggravating stage than
Yep.
really being sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right. It's not
We
as
went out
much
to
my
the
chest as it is my head now.
yeah.
Like it's kind of
No, we
moved
just
up,
got
I
back from the
guess.
Eastern Shore. We rode out to Eastern Shore over the weekend. Our grandson turned 1, so we had a big birthday party for him out
Oh,
there.
cool.
Our son and his wife. It was a great time, man. We really enjoyed it. That sucker's a
Awesome.
ham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, it was a good trip.
Good. I can't imagine we're going to have too many people today. I've already heard from several saying they're going to be a few, or they're not going to be here. So we'll give it another 5-10 minutes like we normally do to let people log on, and then we'll just jump right in.
Yeah. I'll schedule. Are you going to be here this Friday for if I schedule one-on-one with you, sir?
No, so we're close. So a couple changes with that. We have it was kind of top down coach to me from actually let me pause this. Hold up. That'll help the YouTube link so people don't hear me rambling. I'll be right back. Whoa, nice hair, bro. Our gym is next to a honey baked ham, and there's a lot of people piling in here to get their holiday fixings. It's funny to watch all the cars drive by. Morning, Krista.
Good morning.
I thought you weren't making it today. Didn't I see a decline notice? Or is that next week? That's next
Next
week.
week.
Just kidding.
Next week. I'm
Cool.
out of town
Well,
next week. I am a little tired because we decided to go see the lights up in Doswell.
oh, nice.
Don't do it. It's a 4-hour ordeal.
Yep. We had tickets to do it the week that everybody was sick. And so we had to miss it. And my wife booked the tickets, and I was like, "Why did you book that?" And she was like, "Well, I think it'd be fun. We're like kind of in the car and stuff." And I was like, "Have you not heard feedback on that? You're trapped in your car, and it takes 3 to 4 hours, and you just sit there bumper to bumper." And she's like, "I think the girls will be fun." I was like, "The girls will not sit still for 3 to 4 hours in the car." I was like, "That sounds like a terrible time." And so we were fortunately and unfortunately sick, and we missed it that week. But
Yeah, good.
yeah, I was like, "No, thanks." We used
We
to
got
do the
home.
oh geez.
Yeah.
We used to do the this was the first year we didn't do it, but we usually do the Lewis Skinner lights, where you walk around and see everything. We have membership passes there and go all the time year round. So the lights are pretty cool. My yeah, she's technically my second cousin, but I refer to her as my cousin. She's on staff there, so we get a family discount. But they do a really cool light display at the gardens.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just you're outside, so it's cold.
Yeah.
Last year we went on a day when it was like 60, so it wasn't as bad. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, especially with the holiday week this week. As people, can everybody else can hear me, right? Lynn says my microphone is not working. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Austin, I got you back.
Okay,
I
all
can
right.
hear you. Lynn, I can't hear you either, though. It might be your mic. And
Maybe your mic.
yeah.
Okay. Just chat. Put it in the chat if you have questions, Lynn, and I'll see it pop up on my end. So I'll pause everybody. And then if it's no big deal if your microphone isn't working, we'll get squared away. Most of the stuff today. Oh, my microphone is not. I read it wrong the first time. Okay, sorry, Lynn. Yeah. So just chime in the chat if you have questions, and I'll grab it. And then most of what we're talking about today, we've already talked about before. I just wanted to A, put it top of mind again, and B, it should really be your primary focus moving into next year and really moving forward. And it's database. So we're going to talk a little bit more specifics of how to's, what you can be saying, how you should be treating your database. However, it seems simple, and it is. The most important thing with your database is to communicate it with it systematically and often, and then also to continuously add to it. So let's just dive right in. It'll make more sense. Now, we've talked about this before. I always start every session off with a bold law. This is one of my favorites. Those of you that have known me for a little bit now know that I am up early and I start early. My lead gen time is always in the mornings. Even on these type of calls, I've already done an hour of lead gen before 8:45 call because I have to do it in the morning or it does not get done. My afternoons get chaotic and crazy, especially with the kids at home. And that is pretty common across our industry. The reason why we say win the morning, win the day is it's before any other interruptions can come into play. So keep that in mind. We talked about ideal schedule, the last one of these we had, and that's intentional to have lead gen time in the morning. Now, this is a famous Gary Keller quote. I'm sure it's been said by other people. However, he oftentimes brings this up on speeches or trainings. Your net worth is equal to your database. We're going to talk about what that means specifically here in a second. However, I want this to be kind of at the top of your mind. All of the money and all of the transactions you could possibly ever want or need can be found in a database. The teams or the individual agents that do the most volume have the most robust database, both in terms of quantity and in terms of volume or content that they're putting out. And we want to always be thinking about coming from contribution or giving value back to our database. So it excites me to add people to my command or to my CRM because I know that they're going to get value if they accept my invitation. They're going to get monthly newsletters. They're going to have stats about the market. They're going to have giveaways from vendors. They're going to have updates on what's going on in our world. They're also going to get items of value. They're going to get invited to our events. I'm going to check in with them periodically. I'm going to wish them happy birthday. They're going to get a video from me on certain holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, etc. And so these are things that if you are excited about your own database value plan or 36 touch, as we call it, it makes it more easier and it makes it more enticing to want to add people to the database. So who is in your database? Anyone you have a relationship with. Now, there's another famous celebrity or Keller celebrity in our world named Jeff Glover. He owns Glover U. He owns Glover and Associates. He's a big teamerage, which is a team and brokerage as a part of Keller Williams World in Michigan. His team sells over 1,000 homes a year. He and his company have started Glover U, which is a coaching company. They are the real estate coach for Beth Pretty, for Mike Cranston. I've used them in the past. I don't have them currently, but they coach a lot of high-level producing, talented agents. They will. Jeff will say that you have several different databases, and they should all feed each other. What he is referring to is you have your CRM, in this case, Command, if you're a Keller agent. You also have your phone, which has contacts in it, and you have social media accounts, which are databases. And then the last one, which is a little bit looser, is people that you have a relationship with that aren't in some of those. So I have some people in my world that aren't on social media. However, if they're not on social media and they're not existing in my phone or in my Command, it's going to be really hard for me to communicate with them systematically, aside from the fact that I might see them every so often at a certain place. An example would be maybe you get your nails done at the same salon and you use the same tech every single time. However, you're not friends with them on social media. You're not, they're not in your phone because you don't have the direct contact information. However, they see you and they know you and they like you and you have a relationship with them. That is an opportunity to add to your database. We're going to talk about one of my favorite ways to do that later. However, it's anybody that you would have a relationship with can go in your database, especially if you have a substantial conversation about real estate with them. This would be more referring to like an open house lead. We do not want to qualify people prior to putting them in our database. We qualify them when we put them in our database and then as we follow up with them. So for example, if I meet somebody at an open house that says, oh, we live in the neighborhood, we're just looking, that's okay. I still want to add them to my database and get their permission to follow up with them. Some of the reasons why I might follow up would be when this house goes under contract, if they want to see what else comes up on the neighborhood, if they want tips or vendor referrals to update or keep in touch or keep maintenance on their current home, even if they're not thinking about moving. These are all ways that I can stay in touch with them and keep them in my database. Any of your referral partners, and then obviously people that go onto your pipeline, potential buyers and sellers and active clients. And then lastly would be past clients and then vendor partners. Vendor partners and referral partners are not necessarily the same thing. We've talked about this before. Lenders are the easiest example of this. It is very hard, and matter of fact, it's frowned upon for Jackson to refer business to a certain agent in our office because he is a preferred vendor for all of KW Metro Center. However, he is in my database and gets communicated with systematically because he's an important vendor partner of mine. That is not the same as a referral partner who would actively refer me business. They're going to get communicated with a little bit differently. All right. Now, we've talked about this before, the 10% rule. This has changed a little bit recently. I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a second. However, the general average or the rule of thumb is 10% of your total number of contacts should move if you communicate systematically and often, you qualify them properly, like we were just talking about, you give value, and you have a 36 touch minimum in place. The original MREA book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, has 33 touch as the plan that's in that book. So if you're reading the red book, you're going to see 33. It has been updated over the years to be 36. And quite frankly, the top teams will communicate a lot more often than that. Next week, we're going to do a lead generation Zoom about events. And if you host any events, you will see that touch content or quantity go up tremendously. So for example, our team, our plan for 2025, we are closer to 60 to 70 touches a year. And the reason why is we have 6 events that we do year round, and there's 3 touches per event. So that's 18 touches already. If you add in our monthly newsletter, we're already up to 30. If you add in our monthly item of value, we're up to 42, and you can see where this thing starts scaling. Now, it is not the same type of touch. I'm not calling somebody 36 times. I'm going to give you an example of what a 36 touch looks like here in a second. That's a basic one that a lot of people use. And then I want you to take notes of that and make your own. So we're going to do a little example or a little exercise that I want everybody to kind of pay attention to. So if you're using Command already and you've been a part of my trainings, you've done this before, and you can use that number in your Command. If you are not already using a CRM or you do not have all your people already in there, that's okay. You're going to use your cell phone. You're going to look at the total number of contacts, whatever number that may be, and you're going to multiply it by 0.1. And that's going to be your 10% number. Now, going back to the 10% rule, whatever that number is, should move. Now, this is not saying you're going to get all of those transactions. Everybody uses a different realtor for a different reason. And matter of fact, if you read the MREA, the conversion rates are not 100%. They're much closer to like 60 to 70%. And if you're a newer agent, sometimes they can be a little bit lower than that. However, as a base rule of thumb and as a lead count, 10% is a good safe number to use. So if I have 500 contacts in my phone, there's roughly 50 leads or 50 business opportunities out of that number. So based on how much you want to sell for next year, and if you don't know that answer yet, it's okay. We're going to talk more about that as the year starts. If you do know that number, is that 10% number equal to your goal? Meaning, do you have enough people in your database to reach your goal? Quite honestly, you should take whatever number that is. So let's use that 50 example. So if I have 500 people, 10% is 50. I should then multiply that number by 0.6 or 0.75 would be the MREA number, but we're going to be conservative. That 60% means if I convert 60% of these lead opportunities to transactions that close, is that number big enough? And if it's not, that's okay. Most of the time when people do this exercise, it's not big enough. Now, this means two different things. A, we got to add to the database. Actually, really, it means three things. One, we have a big goal, and that's good. Your goal should scare you. You should be setting big goals, and you should be basing your activities off of stretch goals, meaning it should push you out of your comfort zone. So it's okay for it to be bigger than the number you need. Second, we need to add to the database. We're going to talk about ways that we can do that here in a second. And then number three is you need more than one lead generating source, meaning we have to do something else besides just communicate with our database. And that's where things like open houses, door knocking, farming, networking, social media, all of those things come into play. Now, if you really want to build a system or build a business, your other lead generating levers, those things I just mentioned, should still be adding to the database. I've talked to some of you about this before, and I've said it in trainings. The reason why I do an open house is not to sell that house. The goal of an open house is to meet people to add to the database, to convert to other buyers and sellers. If I sell that listing, great. The whole point of an open house is to grow the database. The whole purpose of a networking event is to grow the database. So let's talk about that. Some ways that we can add to the database. I just mentioned a lot of these. Open houses. Social media. We talked about this a second ago. Jeff Glover, Glover U, considers social media its own database. Anybody that you are connected with on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, that is its own database. You're communicating with them systematically if you're posting content. They're interacting with you at a different level. And they can know, like, and trust you based on social media. It's not quite the same as a deeper connection like you would have with your own database. And that's where your goal is to then add them to your command or your CRM. Farming, door knocking, networking, events, and then direct referrals. If I get a referral from another KW agent, they obviously go in my database and I continue to network with them. When you are communicating with your database, you're looking for two different things. You're looking for them to do business with you or that particular contact to refer somebody else to you. That is another way you can grow the database, which is what direct referrals is referring to. It's repeat business or referrals. If you listen to some of the agents in our office or really in the Keller Williams world in general that say X amount of percentage of my business comes from repeat or referral, I'll use Beth Pretty as an example. Her team gets about 80 to 85% of business from repeat or referral. That means that they are coming from direct conversations from their database. Our team is 90 to 95%. Now, agent referrals is a lead gen source of ours. However, those agents are in our database. So it's a different lead source than, say, Sphere of Influence or somebody I already have a relationship with. However, they're in our database and they're communicated with systematically. Any questions so far? Kind of going fast. Now, this is a slide from our last lead gen call we had. However, it's still applicable and it's especially applicable now. If you don't have an appointment that day with a buyer or seller, Your primary focus is lead generation. Gary Keller will say the number one job of a real estate agent is to lead generate. The number one solution to all problems in real estate is more leads. There's an analogy that I like to use when I refer to lead gen or when I refer to pipelines, and it's a bucket of water. Now, if you have a bucket of water and it's dirty and you want to get the dirt out of that water or out of that bucket, the number one way to do it is to pour fresh water in. It is not to get a filter. It's not to try to pick apart the dirt out of the water or to try to sort it between clean water and fresh water or dirty water in the bucket that's already there. You take new fresh water and you continue to pour it in the bucket. Eventually, the dirty water that's in there will overflow and leave the bucket, and you'll be left with fresh water in the bucket. That is what lead generation is. If we focus on lead generating every single day, we're adding fresh water or fresh leads into our business. It will eventually sort out the bad leads. If you have 10 leads to work with and 4 of them are good, you can focus on those 4 leads if you continue to add fresh water in to replace the 6 bad ones. Lead generation ideally happens in the morning before any problems can come up. We just talked about that. And the most effective form of lead generating is phone calls, texts, or direct conversations, which can also be face-to-face. You will hear me refer to lead generating as one-to-one or one-to-many. One-to-one is a direct conversation with somebody, a phone call, a text, or a face-to-face. One-to-many is one touch that goes out to many people. So it's obviously more effective or more personal if I'm having a one-to-one conversation with Krista. If I'm sending an email out to all of the PC agents at once, that's a one-to-many. If I'm sending a monthly newsletter to my database, that's a one-to-many. It's not quite as personalized. Now, it's not to say that it's not important, doesn't work. It's just not quite as intentional versus having a one-to-one conversation. There's a reason why we vary that up. Now, the whole point of a one-to-many is to get to a one-to-one. I want them to read my newsletter, raise their hand and say, hey, we're actually thinking about selling. Can you come by and meet with us? Same thing with farming or events, etc. We're going to talk more about events next week. One of the most common events that I like for any agent to do, especially if you're newer and have a lower budget, is like a first-time home buyer or a seller seminar or some sort of free education that they can show up to and learn about. I've talked to some of you off air about this that are planning some. And the whole point of that event is not to sell them on buying or selling with you there. The whole point of that event is to give free value or free education and then book another appointment that's a one-to-one afterwards, in which case you would do a buyer consultation or get them to work with you. It's the same concept of an open house. If I have a potential buyer or seller walk into my open house, I'm not necessarily trying to convert them there on the spot. I'm showing them different ways that we give value back to our clients, and I want to book a follow-up, whether it be a phone call or a face-to-face, or I come by their house, etc. Now, let's talk 36 touch. This is the most common 36 touch example that I have seen. Now, the first 2, the 12s, are both done via email in command. And so it's essentially the first week of the month and the third week of the month, or the second week of the month and the fourth week of the month. It's every other week. It's a bi-weekly email blast. Now, 12 newsletters can look however you want your newsletter to look. It can be personalized. I personally use Canva, and then I download the design and I send it every month. You can also use designs in command, or you can set this up to automatically send. All of those things, if you're using designs or you want it to automatically go out, that's a see Rachel for help question, because she's our tech trainer. Items of value can be anything that you could possibly imagine that would be something of value that is not asking for the business in return. The number one thing that I like to do here is I offer vendor coupons, or what I call sticky ads. So I use my brother's painting company as an example here because it's very easy. But it might say, hey, if you call Highfield Painting and book a job in January, they'll take $100 off your bill. All you have to do is show them this ad or this email. I'm giving them items of value. I'm giving them vendor recommendations. I'm also giving them a coupon, and it's reminding them that I'm the connector of all of this. If they have a need on their home, they need to reach out to me, and I'll have a little PS at the bottom of that email that would say that. If you need anything, any help inside or outside of your home, please keep us in mind and give us a call. We have vendors of all types. Items of value can also be invitations to your events. It can be a CMA or a custom market or home value report, like we talked about last week. It can be state of the market updates. It can be, I'm trying to think of some of the other examples we've done. It doesn't have to necessarily be a vendor. It can also be a local restaurant or a local brewery or a local art show or something of that nature too that you invite them to. Maybe you give them a coupon to one of the Christmas light things that Krista and I were talking about at the beginning of the class. It can be anything that's pertaining to value that they do not need to pay for or ask for, and you're just staying top of mind. 4 quarterly phone calls. We're going to talk about, excuse me, what that looks like here in a second. But you should be calling them quarterly to have a conversation with them, even if it's just calling them to check in. Hey, I was thinking about you the other day, wanted to call you. How are things going? Excuse me. 2X home anniversary. This is if they've bought or sold with you, or you know their home anniversary, you're wishing them happy anniversary. And then obviously you're wishing them birthdays. Now, if you have a spouse in your database, that's 2 birthday touches. You're wishing a happy birthday to the husband and the wife. If they have kids, that's another birthday touch. So you can see where 36 can continue to grow. 2 events. These do not have to be extravagant. It can be a first-time homebuyer seminar. It can be something that you partner up with in the office. Again, we're going to talk exclusively about events next week. I do not want you to worry about a budget. I'm going to use our example when we talk about it next week. However, we're planning a client appreciation party for up to 100 people for Eden Properties, our top people. And based on the sponsors that we have, we will likely not have to pay anything. And it's going to cost almost $4,000. But we've got sponsors that are going to pitch in for all of that. So I will help you guys plan an event where you do not have to worry about pulling out your checkbook. And then 4 handwritten notes and or pop buys. Now, handwritten notes can also be like a mailed custom home value report. It can be a holiday card. It can be Happy Thanksgiving. It can be Merry Christmas. It can be Happy Hanukkah. It can be Happy New Year. It can be March. It can be Happy Mother's Day, Happy Father's Day. You can also do pop buys associated with all of that. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. If you need pop buy ideas, Google them. Real estate pop buys. Brian Buffini also has a good example on their referral mastery thing. You can also go on Etsy. There's a lot of different cheap and easy pop buys that are out there where you do not have to break the bank. Now, your 36 touch is going to your A's and maybe your B's in your database. So if you remember from our database training previously, A's are likely to refer you. And matter of fact, they have either done business with you or they are referring you 1 or more deals a year. They are your top people. It is usually 10% or less of your database. B's are closer to like 30 to 50% of your database. And that is, they may refer you, they necessarily haven't yet, or they're a past client, but they haven't sent you any referrals. And then C's are everybody else. Now, if you have a referral partner, they're an A. If you have a vendor partner, they're probably a C. Your A's and B's get your 36 touch. Your C's, I like to say, and really most of your B's too, I like to say, save money. So if it's free and all it costs is time, we can send it out. So I would still do number 1. I would still do number 2. I would still do number 3 on this list. And then number 4, I might do a video or a text or a call. And then number 5 and 6, I would say for my A's and B's. Because events cost money and notes and pop buys cost money. Now, events are probably just my A's, especially in the beginning. Any questions, thoughts, comments on 36 touch? Krista's stretching. I thought she had a question. All right. Now, let's talk quarterly calls. This may be kind of hard to read on the screen. If you Google DTD2 2025, you'll see a bunch of options. I suggest you print one out or save one to your phone or your computer, and it's very easy to follow. These are 13 weeks per quarter. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit. Now, DTD2 has been updated to include calling and text with different letters. Personally, I do not use the text column. I use the call column. And based on the client, they're either getting a call or a text. I have reached out to all of my database and, well, most of my database and gotten feedback on how they like to be communicated with, whether it's call, text, or email. And then I will reach out to them based on that. Now, I won't necessarily consider email. For the DTD2, I will only be doing call or text. Most of the time, they're getting a call. If it's a text, I will try to do a video text or a voice text where they can still hear my voice and my inflection. Essentially, you're going to follow these letters each week. So week 1, the first week in January, I'm going to be calling anybody with the last name that starts with A or W in my database. Now, if I have 3 people with those last names, I can obviously get to those in one day. If I have 30, I might have to break it up a little bit each day, and that's okay. What I do is I call or text them the first couple of days, and then I leave Thursday and Friday open to try the people that I never reached or for them to call me back. So it's kind of follow-up game there. Week 2, I would go to B&E. Week 3, I would go to D&O, and so on and so forth. If you would like to follow the call plan and just call these and just text these, you're going to get more touches to your database and it's going to be more impactful. It just is up to you. Then it will reset in quarter 2. So in quarter 2, why is it not working? You would start over week 1 again. Now you can set a task in command to remind you or to do all of these. So it will say week 1, anybody with last name A and W, when you log into your command, it'll say call this person. And it'll say call Mark Williams. Okay. And I'll call him and then I'll click done. And then 13 weeks later, it'll say call Mark Williams and I'll call him again. And then 13 weeks, say call Mark Williams and then I'll do it again. And that's how you stay top of mind. Now, give yourself an easy reason to call. Quarter 1, tell them what you got going on this year and how they can help. We have a goal to help 100 families buy or sell a home in 2025. Would you do me a favor? If you know anybody that you come across looking to move, would you keep me in mind? Quarter 2, it's hard to believe how quickly this year is flying by. I hope you're getting ready for the end of school year and the spring and summer. Do you have any fun plans for vacations this year? Quarter 3, I hope you're staying cool this summer. The market's hot. Would you like an update on your home value report as things are selling quickly? Quarter 4, the temperatures are cooling off outside, but the market's not. I'd love to stay in touch with you about your home or any way that I can help. Oh, by the way, happy holidays. And if you need anything, keep in touch. Now, as you get closer to a specific holiday, you can really reach out. So like if you're doing calls last week or this week, you can be saying specifically happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, that sort of thing. Same thing around Thanksgiving. Questions or comments on DTD2? The entire point behind this is to eliminate call bias. It's too easy for us to pull out our phone and want to call our top people. And while that's important, it's not, you're not communicating it with it systematically. You're never going to hit your 4 quarterly calls if you're calling your A's every time. Now, it is okay to call your A's or talk to your A's more often. As a matter of fact, you should. However, back to the 36 touch minimum, we want to be reaching out to these people systematically. If you're not going to call them at a minimum of 4 times a year, don't put them in your database. You're doing yourself a disservice, and your numbers, back to that 10% rule, will not be accurate, because 10% of your database is not going to conduct business with you or have an opportunity to conduct business with you if you're not reaching out to them. It will happen, because it happens to everybody. You will have people in your database that will buy or sell with somebody else. There are a million reasons why that could happen. The only one that you can control is that you did not communicate with them effectively or not. You cannot control whether they had a sibling get into the business, or somebody from work, coworker, or somebody was farming their neighborhood and they decided to use them, or somebody offered to list their house for 1% instead of 2.5%, or whatever it may be. You cannot control those things, and it will happen. Do not let it discourage you. It happens a lot. I lost over $3 million in sales this year to people hiring other agents. Quite frankly, it irritated me. And that's why we have updated our database plan for next year to make sure that doesn't happen again. And the number one way I can fix that is by adding new people or new leads to the business. All right, now we're almost done. This is an easy touch or script. I'm not supposed to use the word script. Conversation starter that you can use to your folks. Now, I used this example a second ago. We talked about it in our team meeting last week. One of my favorite ways to set this up is this time of year, going into next year, we say, hey, I have a goal, especially if they know you're already in real estate. If they don't, you can tell them that you've gotten into real estate and you have a goal to go full time or to make a career out of it. However, I like to use the framing or the conversation starter of, our team or I personally have a goal to help X amount of families buy or sell next year, or X amount of families move next year, or accomplish their real estate goals next year. So it would look something like, hey, as we're getting into the new year, a lot of us talk about resolutions and goals. What's one goal that you have? Let them answer. They're going to ask you and say, I have a goal to help 50 families next year accomplish their real estate goals. If you came across someone looking to buy or sell real estate, do you have someone you would refer them to? No, I don't. Okay, well, can I add you to my database and stay in touch? We offer items of value, monthly newsletters, invitations to events. And I'd love to be that person that you can keep in mind. That way, if you come across somebody, I can be that referral partner. Internalize this conversation. It should sound like you, and it should be easy. The number one reason why people do not get referrals is because they do not ask. There's a bunch of NAR statistics out there, but it's something like 80 to 90% of clients that use a realtor would refer them or use them again. But like 15% do. And it's because the agents are not staying in touch, and or the agents are not asking for the business or for referrals. Now, this ask is done 4 times a year on that quarterly call. The rest of the time, I'm providing value. I'm not asking for the business. I'm giving them value in the newsletters. I'm giving them value in the items of value. I'm inviting them to events. I'm wishing them a happy birthday. I'm wishing them a happy holidays. I'm wishing them a happy home anniversary on repeat. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? All right. Keep in mind, you should be tracking this daily, if not weekly. The number of conversations you're having, the people that you're adding to your database. So let's go back to the beginning. If your database is not large enough, you need to be adding to it. If that 50 number divided by 60% or multiplied by 60% is not large enough to reach your goal, that 10% number, you need to be added to your database. There are 2 ways to do more business: sell more houses and or sell at a higher price point. The only one you can control is selling more houses within reason. You can obviously network or strategically communicate or target homes at a higher price point, like farming, etc. However, that is not as predictable, and it's going to take time to get there. And so the number one way that you can sell more or do more business is by selling more houses. The number one way you sell more houses is you have more conversations and more people in your database. Period. And that is all we have today. Any thoughts, questions, comments, arguing? Just kidding. Okay.